Okay, we are up to, I believe, the bottom of Taf Dalet Amud Aleph in Kiddushin, and we are up to the Maskef over here. Maskef Mar Baravashi. So let's just do a quick recap of where we're holding because we're sort of in the middle of something. So let's do a quick recap and then we'll start. Let me get this thing out of the way. Okay. So the last thing we discussed was that the pasuk of V'yatzachidim and Kasa tells you that a boigris goes out and that a naira goes free when we're talking about an Amar Vriya, when she becomes a naira, she goes free. When she becomes a boigris, she goes free. Now, if she's already free when she's a naira, how will it be relevant that she goes free when she's a boigris? So the Gemara tried to say that it's no different than the limud which we have regarding the Eved Ivri of a Kohen. The Eved Ivri of a Kohen cannot eat Truma. But even if he's a Nirtza, and he's what we would call an Eved Oilam, because he's going to be an Eved until Yovel, he doesn't either eat Truma. And the Pasuk says there, Toishev Kohen Uschir Kohen Lo Yoichal Boy. And we learn that the Gemara asks, why did it have to speak out that a regular Eved Ivri doesn't eat Truma, if even an Eved Ivri who's there until Yovel doesn't eat Truma, surely an Eved Ivri that's only there for 6 years will not eat Truma. So Gemara, that's correct. But had it not said both, Toshev and Schir, I wouldn't have known that we're speaking even about a Toshev. So I would have touched Toshev, if it didn't say the word Schir, I would have touched Toshev. The Toshev means a regular Eved. Now that it says Schir, there's two people that the Torah is talking about will say that a Schir means a regular Eved, and Toshev means even an Eved that's there forever. So by the same token, the Gemara wanted to argue that the reason why it says V'yatzachidim ein kasef is V'yatzachidim is V'yimei bagris and kasef is V'yimei nairis. Because if it would only have one limud, we would only know bagris, we wouldn't know nairis. The Gemara says it doesn't make sense. Because if a Toshev is one type of person, a Schir is another type of person. L'maskana, that both of them don't need Truma, it's not sure why the Torah would list them both off. Because even though you could have a Kal V'chomer, Madach Toshev doesn't eat Truma, Kol Shekain a Schir, but you can have an argument that Milsa the Asa B'Kal V'chomer, Torah B'Kasav L'Kra. The Torah can write something even though you would have anyway known it from a Kal V'chomer. However, when it's a question of Boigris and Nairis, there it doesn't make any sense at all to say Milsa B'Asa B'Kal V'chomer, Torah B'Kasav L'Kra. Because if a woman goes out from Avdus when she's a Naira, there is no such thing as an idleness going free. So it doesn't make sense that the Torah would address idleness. I'm sorry, not idleness. I'm bagris. It doesn't make sense that the Torah would have a pasuk to tell you that a bagris goes free, because she never goes free. Because by the time she's a begeris, she's already free because she became a Naira. That was the Gemara's kasha. So Abaye answered, like Nitzacha Ela lebeger, the idleness, a woman who never became a Naira. A woman who never becomes a Naira, and she's an Amma Ivriya, how does she go free? Zok Gemara, you know how she goes free? She goes free when she has Simone Bagris, which are Simone islands. So Kedai de Chamina, Ben Nairis Tepuk, Ben Bagris Loy Tepuk, Kamash Malon, that even though this woman never became a Naira, but eventually, if she ends up seeing the Simonim of an idleness, we say she's matured and therefore she gets to go free. Matzkef lo mar baravashi. So now we're on the last skinny line on Dalet Amral. Matzkef lo mar baravashi. The lav kal v'chomer, isn't it a kal v'chomer? And this is the kal v'chomer. It's a very simple kal v'chomer. Umas simonim, madich simonim, she'ein moitziin mishus av. Just because a woman becomes a naira, it does not impact the status of control that her father has. In her, the father could marry off a naira. Nevertheless, moitziin mishus adain. A woman who gets simonim and she becomes a naira, she goes free from her avdus. So Bagrus, a woman who has Simani Bagrus, Shemoitzia Meshusav, that even releases her from her father's control. Einoi din Shemoitzia Meshusadon. So calls the king, it should be Meitzia Meshusadon. So why do I need a pasuk that a Baigeris goes free? We have a Kal V'chomer that a Baigeris goes free. If she goes free from her father's grasp, she should surely go free from her Adon's grasp. Ella, Amar Mar Baravashi, Loi Nitzrucha, El Iker Zvina the islandess. You know why you need a pasuk to tell you that an islandess goes free when she becomes a Baigeris? To tell you that you could sell an islandess. I would have thought that an islandess could never be sold as an Amma Ivriya. So Kadaidach, I would have thought, there also Simani Nairis, a woman who's Simani Nairis can come to her, a regular healthy woman, Haviz Vina. That's someone who can be sold as a servant. But the Loi Asya Simani Nairis, Lehaviz Vina Svina. I would have thought that you cannot sell a woman who will never have Simani Nairis, a woman who's an islandess. Hamash Malon, you could sell her, and when does she go free? When she becomes a Baigeris. Steltzich, the obvious kasha, when you sell her, how in the world do you know that she won't have Simali islands? We don't know if a woman's in the islands when she's 6, 7 years old. So how could the Gemara have a Havamina that you wouldn't be able to sell a woman who's an islandess? How would we possibly know that? Zok Toisvis, also Simani Nairis, have a Zvina Zvina, Vim Timer Uva Katnus, Eich Neda, Shaloi Tavi Simani Nairis. How in the world do we know by a young girl that she's an islandess? The Simani islandess, Hainu, Kishibas Esrim, Velohi Cyrus. One of the Simani islanders is if she reaches the age of 20 and she has not yet brought Cyrus, that's a Simani islandess. So until she's 20, we don't know. So just because we're going to suspect that you cannot sell an islandess, how does that help? I have no idea if she's an islandess. We're not prepared to sell her. Even though there are some Simani islanders that show up early, she'll have a deeper voice, and the form of her abdomen is not quite like a regular woman, but those aren't good enough simanim. We wouldn't be able to establish that a woman is an islandess until she has all of the Simani islandess, right? Or at least by a shris we know that. Why would an islandess be any different than a shris? So how is it that we say you won't be able to sell her? You wouldn't know. So you'll sell her. You will sell her. But once you find out she's an islandess, we'll have to retroactively reverse that sale, which means all of the Maisiyadayim that this woman produced while she was in slavery, that the Adon benefited from, the Adon has to now reimburse her for that, because he never had a right to it, because his buy was never a good buy. And of course, the father will have to refund the money that this purchaser originally paid for this woman. And the gam in chayich badin yiyud im yada. If he made yiyud, the yiyud dissolves because she was never an Amma Ivriya. So that would have been a having if that's the case. Kamash along the pasuk of the Yatzachinam Kasif, the Yatzachinam, that a Baigeris goes free, and that teaches us we don't need the pasuk to tell us that a Baigeris go free. We have a Kal V'chomer from Aviha, but what we do need it for is to teach us that an islandess can be sold, and if she's sold as an Amma, it's a valid sale. Kamash Malam. Kamash Malam v'yatzachina. Beautiful. Zok to Gemara Vayter. Ulamar Baravashi, the Omar v'lav Kal V'chomer. Mar Baravashi is the one who asked the kasha. It's a Kal V'chomer. So if it's a Kal V'chomer, why do I need a pasuk to tell us that an islandess goes free when she sees Simone Bagos? Ulamar Baravashi, the Omar v'lav Kal V'chomer. I don't understand. B'chalal, what was his kasha? And if it's a Kal V'chomer, the Torah can't say something that's a Kal V'chomer. Just because we have a Kal V'chomer that an islandess goes out with Simone Bagros, why can't the Torah tell it to us anyway with V'yotzachinam? Hamrinan, we have a rule, like we just discussed, Milsav da'asher b'Kal V'chomer, Tarach v'kasav l'kra. It's not a kasha if the Gemara or if the pasuk It's not a kasha if a pasuk teaches us something that we would have otherwise known with a kavachem. That's true. That's true. We can live with that. But if we don't have any other answer, so we'll rely on that as a last resort. But if we could find a good reason why the Torah would have told us this, such as in our case, to teach us that an island can be sold, that's a much better teretz than saying that the Torah tells us something that we would have otherwise known. We started the sugya asking the following question. How do you know that a woman could be bought with kesef? So we had this whole shtickle Torah that we came out of Yotzachinim in Kosef, and kesef laden zeh, yesh kesef laden nacher, and then the Gemara wanted to know, how do you know that a naira a father can sell? So the Gemara said, we went through a couple of choices. I was beating the Sati, I wasn't a good raya. Rabbi Savia wasn't a good raya. So the Gemara went back to Yotzachinim and Kosef, and we said that the two Bailim have to be the same. The Lashon of the Gemara is, Yitzid the Kavasa Kamamai. Just like when she leaves the Adon's house, she's leaving the house of an Adon, and he doesn't get any money. So, Ein Kesef Laden Zeh. But when she leaves her father's house, then her father does get money. So that's how you know Kesef and Kesef Kiddushin by a naira. That was the first pshat in the Gemara. But that's not the pshat that's kicha from Stefan. Remember, we started the whole Gemara saying the reason why it's an Isha Niknis is because we learned Kesef from kicha from Stefan. So far, we have no mention of kicha Mr. Ephraim. But the Tana the Tana of our Mishnah learns the Kinyan Kesef from kicha. The Tanya ki yigach ish isha uba'ala v'hayim lo'simtza chen be'enav ki matzah be'ever stavar. It's a nice reminder of the last omid of Gittin. What does it mean in lo'simtza chen be'enav, and what does it mean ki matzah be'ever stavar? So if you remember, we had a machlokes b'sham and b'silil. B'silil says two things: ki matzah ba'ervas, which would be if she was mazanet. Davar is a filuk ticha tavshilai, and Rabbi Kiva learned for any reason at all. Gewaltig. So Zog the Gemara, ain't kicha elo bekesef. Kicha means kesef. How do you know kicha is with kesef? Why do I need a pasuk to teach us that a woman could be in this kadeshes with kesef? It's a kal v'chaymer. Validinu. Uma omha vriya. Ma dechad oma. Shady niknas bebiyah. You cannot be kind an amma with bia. Nevertheless, niknis bekesef. We know an amma you purchase with kesef, because Rashi tells us it says in mikesef miknasai. If she wants to redeem herself, she pays her back. She pays the odin back mikesef miknasai from the kesef that she was purchased with. So we know an amma of is niknis bekesef. It's not niknis bebia, but it's niknis bekesef. Zu an isha. It's a niknis bebia. An isha who is niknis bebia, eino din she tikna bekesef. Surely you should be able to be kaina. You should be able to be kaina bekesef. Zoktamai, that's not a raya. Yavama techiach. Yavama breaks this kal v'chomer. She niknis bebia. A yavama you can be kaina with bia, but nevertheless ve'eino niknis bekesef. So you can't say that a woman who's niknas bebia is automatically niknas bekesef. Correct, Gemara, you know why a yavama is not niknas bekesef? Mal yavama shekene niknas b'shtar. The yavama doesn't have the other kinyan that applies to a isha, which is star. Paimer bezu, by a regular pnuya who's getting married, she niknas b'shtar, she should be able to learn from Amma that she should also be niknas bekesef. So basically, we're at the point right now where I have a kal v'chomer that proves that a woman is niknis bekesef. So how does the Gemara respond to that? Talmud loimer ki yikachis, which is the pasuk that teaches us that she's niknis bekesef. Correct, Gemara halam likra ha'asila. Didn't we just conclude a moment ago that in fact we do have a kal v'chomer? Madechan amma ivriya, who is not niknis bebia, is niknis bekesef. An isha who is niknas bebia, surely should be niknas bekesef. And don't ask me a kasha from Yavama, because the Yavama is not niknas bishtar. So why do I need a pasuk? On Rav Ashi, mishum deikala meimar mikar dedina pircha. we could undermine the Kavachomer before it even begins. Mehecha Kamaisisla. What is the whole base of the Kavachomer? Me'amaha Evriya. Because she's the woman who we know for sure is Nikdas Bekesef. You cannot bring any raya whatsoever from an Amma Evriya. Because Ma la Amma Evriya, she can yoyta Bekesef. The Amma Evriya has a release. She leaves. Shepaides Atma b'soich sheishanim tirtze. She could be paid herself if she has the money. She could redeem herself. It says v'havta. So therefore, Zokrashi v'hayel v'kesef chashav balaftoitza. Since you see money has a big impact on her, it could redeem her. That's why chashav lami nikloisa. That's why an Amma Evriya is niklas b'kesef. Timer bezu by a regular isha she'eni yotze b'kesef. A regular woman, a married woman, does not go out with kesef. Because Rashi says again, we looked at the end of the Masechta, Misefer Karsa vein Davacha Karsa. Talmud Leimer Kigachish. So therefore, since we couldn't learn Kiddushin Kesef from Amma Ivriya, we need to find the pasuk. The pasuk is Kigachish, and you have the shav of Kicha Mr. Ephraim, where it says Sadois Vakesef. Beautiful. Zok Gemara, ve'itzrich lemichtiv v'yatzechinam. We need the limud of a yatzechinam, because if you remember, we also learned from the yatzechinam in Kasef that there's a kinyan kesef by Kiddushin. The itzrich l'michtav ki achish, you need a town over here, you need his reason as well. Why do you need both? Because of Rachman ki yikach, if we only had the pasuk of ki yikach, havamina Kiddushin, the yoyev la baal didava. I would have thought that when a naira is mikudeshes, who gets to keep the money? The woman herself. That's why you have Yotzachidim in Kasef to teach you in Kesef Laden Zeh, Avol Yesh Kesef Laden Acher, her father gets the money, not her. That's why Kasef Rachman of Yotzachidim. Because of Rachman of Yotzachidim, if we only had the pasuk of Yotzachidim, Havamina, what does it mean? Yotzachidim in Kasef, but by Isha, there's Kesef in the transaction. Maskim, there's Kesef in the transaction. But who's giving the Kesef? It doesn't say who's giving the kesef. We know who gets it. That's determined because from the Yatzachina we know that her father gets it. But who's giving it? So I would have thought, if she gave the money to the man, instead of the man giving her Kiddushin, if she gave money to the man, have a Kiddushin, it would be a Kiddushin. Therefore, because of Rachmana ki yigach, v'loi ki sikach. The man has to give the money to take and be kind to the woman. It's not the woman who gives the money. Ubaila, uba'ala. Kiyiga chishisha uba'ala. Melamed sheniknes bebiyah. How do we know that a woman is niknes bebiyah? From the pasuk kiyiga chishisha uba'ala. Freik gemar v'alei din. Why do I need a pasuk to teach me that a woman is miskadeshes bebiyah? It's a kavachem. Uma yivama shein niknes bekesef niknes bebiyah. Zusha niknes bekesef. Einedin she niknes bebiyah. Zok to Gemara. That's not a good kavachem. Ama ha'avri sachiach. She niknes bekesef. They niknes bebiyah. You can't bring me a raya from the fact that someone is niknes bekesef. Automatically, that means they should be niknes bebiyah. Because an amma is niknes bekesef, and an amma is not niknes bebiyah. Zok to Gemara. You can't bring me a raya from amma. Ma amma havriya. When you're being kind of an amma, it's not an issue's tickle kinyan, it's a moment's tickle kinyan. You're buying her labor. So of course the bia wouldn't help. Timers bezu kinyan l'shamishus. The kinyan of a yavama is l'shamishus, and the kinyan of an isha is l'shamishus. So therefore you should have a good kalva chaymer, madach yavama who's not niknas bekesef, is niknas bebiyah. A regular woman who is niknas bekesef should surely be niknas bebiyah, and don't bring me any raya from an amma that has nothing to do with issues. Talmud Leimer ubala. So we just concluded that we have a good kal v'chaymer, and then the Gemara says Talmud Leimer ubala, you have a pasuk. Again, exactly as before. V'lama likra. Why do I need a pasuk? We just concluded that ha'asyala, that we learned it with the kal v'chaymer from Yavama. Amar Bashi, once again, Mishum Dikel Memor Mikar Didina Percha. We can undermine this Kal V'chaymer right from the beginning. Mehecha Gamai Sisla, Miyavama. From where do you want to prove that a woman is Niknas Bebiyah? From a Yavama. Mali Yavama, Shekins Kukavai Medes. A Yavama is already half konui to her. A regular Pnuya has zero connection to her husband, he has to create a full connection. A Yavama, there's already a Zika that the Torah grants. All she needs to do is to complete that. To complete it, Yivam is enough. Bia is enough. But who said to make a complete marriage? Who said Bia would be enough? That's why you need a pasuk to tell us Talmud Lemu Bala that a regular woman can be nicknamed as Bia. Zok Rashi shekein zekuka b'medes lozeh to her yavim machmas kiddushay ames because of the kiddushay ames. Ve'ein Bia ba eleligmar. The Bia by Yibam is just finishing up a pre-established relationship. Avol kinyan de meikar aloi. But who said to start from scratch to create a kinyanishus? Who said Bia would work for that? That's why you need a pasuk. So far, if we just do an inventory, we know that a woman is niktis be kasef from biyatzachidim and kasef and ish kiyach ish ishu ba'ala, and the Gemara made the shrichasa. Why you need both tukim? We know that a woman can be niktis b'biyah from uba'ala. So now let's get to the third method, uminayin sha'af bishtar. How do we know that a woman can be niktis b'shtar? Vidinu. Once again, I have a kal v'chever. Uma kesef she'ein moitzi machnis madach kesef, that you cannot release a woman with kesef. Kesef doesn't work to be a get. Nevertheless, machnis, it works to be kind of a woman. Shtar shemoitzi, star that's even capable of creating a gerushin. Einodin shemachnis. Surely it should be able to be machnis a woman to Kiddushin. Fact Gemara, that's not a good raya. Mal kesef shekein poiten by hektis umay sheni. Kesef is stronger than shtar, and that's why you could make Kiddushin, because you could be poiten hektis and masha sheni. Timer b'shtar shein poiten by hektis and masha sheni. If you want to be poiten hektis, you can't write the gizbar an IOU note and then get the hektish. You have to give him cash. Dichsiv v'nasana kesef v'kamloi. You have to give the cash. It doesn't say you give an IOU note. To be paid the hektish, you have to deliver the cash. Omar Kra, the pasuk says v'yatza v'haisa makesh havaya liyitzia. We compare a woman becoming married to a woman becoming divorced. Ma yitzia b'shtar, just like a woman could be sent away. She leaves her marriage with a star, the star of Gerushin. Af havaya nami b'shtar. So we now are introduced to this hekesh that we've had in the past, that there's a connection between becoming married and becoming divorced. And we learn that the method of divorce, which is star, also works to be a havaya. It also works to make a kedusha. Frank the Gemara, if you're going to do that, so then let's take it a step further. Va'akesh nami yitzia havaya. Ma havaya bekesef, av yitzia bekesef. This should be a reciprocal arrangement. If there's a hekesh, limudim go both ways. We know you could make kiddushay kesef, so maybe then you should be able to be magarish, a woman with kesef as well. Omar Abaye, it's not logical to say that. You know why? Yarmru kesef machnis. Kesef is what brings a couple together. Kesef moitzi, that same thing is going to destroy a relationship. Saneger yasa kateger. The saneger is the defense lawyer, and the kateger is the prosecutor. You're telling me that suddenly the defense lawyer is going to turn around and be a prosecutor? This is not Hunter Biden, where the prosecutor is actually an undercover defense attorney for Hunter Biden. We're talking in real life. If you talk to Gemara, if you're going to use that logic, ihachi shtar nami. Just if shtar is used as a get, it's the kateger. How could you argue that shtar should be the seneger, that the shtar should allow a woman to get married? Yoimu shtar moitzi, shtar machnis, kateger yasa seneger? Zok to Gemara, that's not a problem. Because the two stars aren't the same. They say two different things. Mili the high star lechud, umili the high star lechud. The star that is moitzi her says haret muteres l'chalodam. The star that is machnis her says haret mukudeshesli. Zok to Gemara, if that's the case, then I can make the same distinction by kesef. And I should argue that kesef should work for get. Hachanami high kaspa lechud, high kaspa lechud. It's a different money. One's money to take her in, one's money to send her out. Dr. Gemara, not so much. Tiva mia chatu. A coin is a coin. Physically, it's the same. Yes, it's designated for this purpose, for that purpose, but lemais is the same coin. It's not logical to suggest that the coin that's used to be machneser, that's a saneger, will also be used to be moitzer. Rava says we have another way to know that kesef doesn't work for a get. Because Omar the pasuk says by gerushin, v'chasavlo. You want to divorce your wife, you need to write a star. V'ksiva miskareshes, ve'ein miskareshes bekesef. Even though we have the hakish of Yotzav V'Isa, we have a special gilui, a special pasuk by gerushin to tell us that there is only one method of gerushin. Money will not work. Frag the Gemara, maybe darshan differently. When it says the chasav law, why do we darshan the aim of b'ksiva miskareshes, the aim of miskadeshes b'ksiva? Maybe the chasav law is to tell you not that you cannot use money for gerushin, maybe to tell you that a star won't work for kedushin. Zok the Gemara, that's not logical because we have a hekesh, haksiva yotzav ha'isa, makish. Frag the Gemara, you have a hekesh which wants to tell you to apply something from gerushin to kedushin. But you also have a Yotzav V'Isa to tell you that we want to apply kesef to gerushin. We also have the Chasav law to tell you don't treat gerushin like kedushin. So we have two different ways. So you decided arbitrarily to say that when it says the Chasav law, it's to tell you the distinction that you could only give a get with a star and you can't use money. And when it says Yotzav V'Isa, is to tell you that the same way star works for gerushin, star works for kedushin. Mehechet is to apply it that way. Maybe applied in the opposite direction. Umaroyis. So Akbar mistavra koi begerushin b'mayit gerushin. When it says v'chasav law, the pasuk is talking about gerushin. So it's going to teach us a halacha about gerushin, not a halacha about kedushin. So it'll teach us you could write her a get, but you cannot get rid of her with kesef, because that's teaching you a halacha of gerushin. But if you use the chasav law to tell you that you cannot use a star for kedushin, it's not so mistaber that the pasuk talking about gerushin is teaching you halacha about kedushin when there's business to take care of, minei ubei and gerushin, to teach us that money doesn't work for gerushin. Koi begerushin umayit kedushin. We're in a pasuk of gerushin, and we want to argue that it should tell us a halacha about kedushin. That's not so mistaber. Dr. Gemara, this is really, really good. If you have the available pasuk of a chasav law to tell you that a woman will not be migareshes with kesef. But you know somebody argues on this pasuk, on the understanding of this pasuk. We had Rabbi Yosy Aglili in the beginning of Gittin, and he said, the apikalei lahai kra l'drash rachmin. Rabbi Yosy Aglili used this pasuk for something else. I don't know if you remember, we had a shaila if you could write a get on a behema. So Rabbi Yosy Aglili said you could write a get on a balchai. You could write on a behema, and that's what he used the chasav law for. So Rabbi Yosy Aglili does not have the available limit of the chasav law. So Aibazoi, how is Rabbi Yosy Aglili going to know that you cannot be megarish a woman with kesef? She'enim miskareshes bekesef minole. How will he know that? Omar Kra, the Torah tells us, Sefer Krisus. It says v'chasav law, Sefer Krisus. So we dash in from the Sefer Krisus that Sefer Karsa ve'ein davar achar Karsa. Nothing else will be potent, will work as a get. The Rabbanon know this already from the Chasav law. So what are they going to do with Sefer Krisus? High Krisus, my Avdilai. Look at that. The Gemara wants us to get a little bit of a chazara of what we just learned in Gittin. That a get's not a good get unless it's going to lead to a complete severance where she will no longer have to be reliant on him at all. Kidditanya. If the husband makes a t'nai in the get, that's going to tie her down forever. She's never allowed to go to her father's house. She's never allowed to drink wine. Ein ze krisus. That's not called krisus. But if he said you only have to refrain from wine or refrain from going to your father kol shloshim yoim for 30 days, harei ze krisus, because eventually it's going to end and she'll be disconnected. Correct Gemara, where is Rabbi Yosy Aglili going to know that from? So Gemara, he will know it from kares krisus. It could have said the chasav law sefer kares. Why did it say the chasav law sefer krisus? that teaches this extra knech that it has to be a complete severance. Because krisus kanafkale, v'rabbanon, what are the rabbanon going to do with the karis krisus? What extra limit are they going to have? For rabbanon karis krisus le'mashmalu, they hold the fact that the Torah said krisus instead of karis isn't something that you can make a big deal about and darshan halacha. So Zok the Gemara, we've just shown you, we just illustrated to you that we need a pasuk for kedusha bia, and we need a pasuk for kedusha kesef, and we need a pasuk for kedusha star, because you wouldn't have known it from a kavochay. For the Gemara, that's true, but with a regular kavochay, I couldn't prove either one of these kinyanim. But maybe if I know about two of the kinyanim of an isha, we know it from the Torah. Maybe the third we could have learned up with a limud. Why do we need a pasuk for all three? So the Gemara says, okay, let's try this out. Hi Tasi, which one are we going to learn from the other two? So the Gemara starts with suggesting the following: what if the Torah would have never taught us that a woman could be married with a star? And if you remember, the limud is really from v'yotza v'hoisa. Let's say we didn't have that limud. V'teisa mahanach. Let's learn. We have bia, we have kiddush, we have kesef. Their kinyanim, they work to bring a woman into a marriage. So too, star will work as well. Zok Gemara, that wouldn't work. Malahanach, kesef and bia. Shekein hana asa meruba. When there's bia, there's a lot of hana. Cash is hana. Giving somebody a piece of paper, there's no hana there. So maybe that wouldn't work for Kiddushin. Okay, so we know we for sure need to have a pasuk about Kiddushin star. But maybe maybe the Torah shouldn't have told us uba'ala. We would have known that if Kiddushin kesef works, Kiddushin star works, Kiddushin bia must also work. That wouldn't work either. Malahanach shekein kinyan meruba. They work, the kinyan of kesef and the kinyan of star work for many different things. Your koine karkoyis and avodim, these are very universal kinyanim. Mashenkin bia only works in very specific instances for yibum and maybe for kedushin as well. So it definitely has to say ubala. So now we're up to the third. Maybe the Torah didn't have to tell us that a woman could be nicknas bekesef, v'teisa mahanach, and you would know it from the fact that bia works and star works. So Gemara, no. Ma lahanach sheken yeshnan bal korcha. Get, star works bal korcha, it works by get. Bia works bal korcha, it works by yibum. So maybe that's why they work for kedushin. But kesef, which never works bal korcha, who said it would work? V'chitema kesef nami bal korcha. And if you're going to tell me, what are you talking about? Sometimes kesef is also koine bal korcha, where ba'ameh avriya, because the father can sell her shaloi midaita. So you see there's bal korcha there. So tomorrow be ishus mi'aloi ashkechan. Legabe ish legabe a kinyan of mamanis. Yes, you find that it works bal korcha. But by ishus, you don't find anywhere that kesef could create a marriage bal korcha. So that's why we need a pasuk to tell us specifically that kinyan kesef works, and that was a combination of a yotzachidim in kasef and kicha mistei efrain. You need a pasuk of uba'ala to tell us that kedusha bia works, and we need v'yatzav ha'isa to tell us that star, just like it works for gerushin, it works for kedushin as well. Amar Rafuna. Now Rafuna tells us his chiddush. Chuppah koine mikal v'chayim. Chuppah will also make kedushin. So according to Rafuna, there's 4 ways to make kedushin. Through chuppah. Chuppah creates a kedushin as well. What is a kal v'chayim? Uma kesef she'inei ma'achal b'truma koine. Kiddushin is not ma'achal b'truma. If a woman is mikudeshes, she may not eat truma. If a woman is mikudeshes to a kohen, that is, the woman cannot eat truma until she goes l'chuppah. So madich kesef, which is not strong enough of a kinyan, the kedushin will not give a woman the right to eat truma, koina, yet it creates a kedushin. Chuppah shemacheles b'truma. Chuppah, which is particularly potent, because after chuppah, a woman's allowed to eat truma. Einodin ketikna. Surely it should be koina. Surely it should be koina. Correct, Gemara. Your whole assumption is wrong. The kesef ain't in Michael. Are you telling me that a woman who's mikudeshes cannot eat truma. V'yamar Ula. Ula said, "Dvar Torah midayraisa arusa bas Yisrael lechelas betruma." Once a woman becomes mikudeshes to a kohen, she's now officially kinyan kasboy, and the vada she can eat truma. Shenamar v'kohen ki yikna nefesh kinyan kasboy. The high kinyan kasboy who a woman is mikudeshes is a kinyan kasef. So why don't we let her eat truma? Umatam amru eino echelas. That's because gzeira shemiyim zugula kois b'veisavia v'tishkenu lachel lachesea. If we let her eat truma when she's mikudeshes, she's not even living with her husband yet. She lives at home with her family. She lives in a family of Yisraelim. If she's going to start eating truma, she'll have all truma all around her. And what if she shares some of her food with her siblings? She's going to be makshul them as zorim eating truma. So that's what it is. So since Kesef Kiddushin does Michael Ubum B'Truma, what is Rav Huna's Kal V'Chaymer? To suggest that Chuppah should also be able to be a good king. This is what Rav Huna must mean to say. Uma Kesef she'enei goymer kaina madach Kesef that cannot be goymer, which Rashi says is lohitzia mirshus avia l'maisi yodeh l'rishasa. Kinyan Kesef makes a Kiddushin, but a man who's Makalish a woman, an Arusa, the man's not entitled to Yash in her, nor is he entitled to her Ma'aseh Yadayim. Kesef could never get a husband, Ma'aseh Yadayim, or Yerusha. Yet, Chuppah can be Goymer, Chuppah, Shegoymeris, a Chuppah, which we know makes it that now the husband Yashins her, now the husband is entitled to her Ma'aseh Yadayim. Surely a chuppah should be able to do whatever Kesef could do, because a chuppah could even do more than what Kesef. Dr. Gemara, no. Kesef has some advantages that chuppah doesn't have. Mala Kesef, she can't poison by Yakdesha, she's Ma'asher Sheni. And the chuppah can't do that. Dr. Gemara, there's no value. Legabe Kiddushin, there's no value in being able to be poison by Yakdesha, Ma'asher Sheni. You know why? Because Biyat Bia, you can't be kind of hektish and ma'aseh sheni. Yet Bia works as a Kiddushin. Zok tomorrow, Bia has other strong points to it. Mala Bia, she can kind of be a vama. Bia can be kind of yavam. Zok tomorrow, Kesef yichiach. Kesef cannot be kind of yavam. Yet it can do Kiddushin. There are strengths that Kiddusha Kesef has, and there are strengths that Kiddusha Bia has. But Atzara Shavah Shebehen, what do they both have in common? Isha Koyin Ba'alma, they each coin in other places. Bia is coined by Yavama, Kesef is coined by other transactions. The Koyin can, and they both work to make a Kiddushin. Up on the Avi Chuppah, so too Chuppah, Shekoyin Ba'alma, it's coined elsewhere. It creates an Asuin, and therefore the Koyin can. Let's argue, Zok Huna, that Chuppah should also be able to make a Kiddushin. That's not a good raya. Mal l'tzara shavah shebehen, Kesef and Bia. You know why they make Kiddushin? Shekein hana asam aruba. They deliver great benefit to the recipient. So that's why they create a kinyan. But Chuppah does not. That's not a kasha because Shtar also does Kiddushin and it doesn't deliver any benefit to the lady whatsoever. But Shtar has other strengths. Mal Shtar, shekein moitzi b'bas Yisrael. Shtar is very strong. He can break a marriage. Kesef v'biyah cannot. V'chazar adin. And now we go around again. Loy rozeh karoizeh, v'loy rozeh karoizeh. Kesef has its own milas that you could be poidek deishus or ma'asher sheni. Biyah has its milas. You could be koina yavama. And Shtar has its milas that is strong enough to break up a marriage. But they don't share the common chumrah. They each have their own thing. The only thing that they share is hatzara shavah shebehen shekonin ba'alma. They have an impact somewhere in each of their respective areas. The koinin can, and they work for Kiddushin. So why is chuppah any different? Af ani avi chuppah shekonin ba'alma. It makes the soon. Let it be koinin can, and that's Rav Huna's argument. Why a chuppah does make Kiddushin? So to Gemara, mal hatzara shavah shebehen. All three, Kesef, Shtar, and Bia, Shekein Yeshnan Balkarcha. Kesef, Shtar, and Bia work Balkarcha. Kesef works Balkarcha when you're selling a number every year. Shtar works Balkarcha when you're divorcing a woman. and be a worse bal karcha when you're doing yibum. Dr. Gemara, but Rav Huna, he holds there's no tzara shavush sheben, because kesef mia beishus loy ashkechon bal karcha. You never find by ishus kesef should work bal karcha, and therefore you don't have a tzara shavush sheben. And therefore you do about tzara shavush sheben, and therefore, so therefore that would be a reason why you can't learn it. Rav Huna holds you don't have that tzara shavush sheben, and therefore you would be able to learn that all they have in common is they're kind of in other places, and and they can make a Kiddushin. So too chuppah, which is kind in other places, should be able to make a Kiddushin. Now this shaila of whether or not kinyan kesef is yeshna bal karcha, because a father can tell his daughter, there's actually a argument to say that that's not called bal karcha, because the father is in her place, and when he's mekabel kedushin or selling her, he's her das, he controls her, and it's considered midai toy. So therefore, there are those who learn that you don't have the ishus bal karcha. Zok the Gemara, Amar Rava, shtei tshuvas b'davar. I have two reasons to argue with you, Rav Huna, and to dispute your halacha that chuppah works for kedushin. Chada, number one, the shalish nan v'loy daled, v'daled loitnan. It says in our Mishnah, ha'isha niknas b'shlosh drachim. Clearly, it's not including chuppah. V'oid, plum chuppah gaimeres ela yidei kedushin. Your whole chalv'chaymer was that chuppah is so powerful, it could close the deal, it could make him yashiner and get her ma'aseh yadayim, and no kedushin could do that. But chuppah could only do that once there's already a kedushin in place. So chuppah's whole koyach comes for a kedushin. So you can't learn that chuppah could be in place of kedushin. Zok to Gemara, v'chi gaminan chuppah shaloy yidei kedushin mi chuppah tal yidei kedushin. So could you learn chuppah shaloy yidei kedushin mi chuppah shal yidei kedushin? Yes, chuppah is goymer. Chuppah is goymer al yidei kedushin. You want to take it a step further, and you want to say chuppah should be able to be koina before the kedushin came and paved the way. That you don't know, Rav Huna. So Amalei Abaye, I think we can answer those two questions. How the karmid gimel time v'loy dalat nan? No, that's not fair, because Tana milsa d'ksiva behedya katani, milsa d'ksiva behedya loy katani. Kinyonim that are meforish in the Torah, because we have the pasuk bala, we have a yotzav haisa, we have a yotzav chinam. Those are the kinyonim that our Tana is referring to. But if you just learn it out of a kal v'chaymer, which there's no direct remnants in the Torah to it, that's not going to make the list. But that doesn't mean it's not a good kinyan. And your argument that chuppah could only be goymer if it has a kedushin in place, Rav Huna nami hachikamar. Rav Huna agrees with that, and this is what he means to say: Uma kesef she'enoi goymer acher kesef. Hoina madach kesef, that even after there's already a kedushin, still the kesef can't be goymer. Nevertheless, it's still koina, and it could make a kedushin. Chuppah shegemeres acher kesef, chuppah which is stronger than kesef, because after there's a kedushin already, a chuppah could be goymer, although kesef cannot. Anything shetikna, surely it should be able to make a kedushin as well. Okay, Gavaldik, let's stop here, and we're almost a full blood ahead, right? I don't know, but the next week I might have some turbulence, huh? So we'll see how it goes. Of course, we're learning Shabbos. Why not? The only problem that I have is that I'm going to be right on time with Finkel Shir, but we're a blot ahead. So what I might do tomorrow is skip Daf Vav and learn Daf Zayin, so that on Shabbos we can still learn Daf Vav with Finkel. So we'll see how it goes. We'll see how far I get